Good evening, 7:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on this Saturday, January 21st, 2023. I'm XRP Future Millionaire, and I reside in the great state of Michigan. As currently, all of crypto has experienced a tiny bit of a retracement, which is completely normal. Tried to talk about earlier, talked about how the total crypto market cap was coming up to a very critical downtrending resistance at about 1 trillion. It is a very key level because to me, that is a major pivot. If you can get on top of that, there is a chance that you come all the way up here to 1.139 trillion. There's several levels in between, but that's your next major level. This is working on somewhat of a cup and handle. You can even go way back here, but definitely here from the drop off. So we're going to see if this can push out any farther if we finally met our match with volume. But, we're going to have a pretty harsh rejection here, but it is a thinly traded weekend. I have seen some questions about, is this a manipulated push-up so that, and the question is always, is this pump, and I've got it a couple times, is this pump so that Sam Bankman-Fried can have one last pump so that he can dump his stuff, and this is just one big thing? I don't know if that's the reason for the pump. It could very well be that it's a new year. A lot of people have new capital, and they don't mind whether they're up or down because it's the start of a new trading year. But it's definitely a big manipulation here. I mean, the volume suggests it as well. We're having these substantial moves, but we don't have a lot of volume backing. Which, as I always say, the volume isn't everything. It really isn't, and this should be proof of that. We came right up here so far to this downtrending resistance that goes back to October 1st of 2020 approximately. 2021. So it's been a very key downtrending resistance, and it's really a key level for me. Once it gets on top side of that, then 26K is back on the discussion table. If we do hold that, and then ultimately, and I know Chris and Telegram are at a fantastic rejection level. It's around 26.6. Even if it got above 26, that could stop us to 28,000, which is absolutely spot on. So that's what we're looking at right here. So we've come up to this downtrending resistance. Now it's one of these things. Is this topping out? We're in a thinly traded weekend. And, if you break up, you still got this if we overextend this uptrending resistance. So you could technically build in a layer here at about 24,880. And I also get questions, well, you could put the down support lines and all this when I do my XRP, and that's for Bitcoin. Well, XRP, I keep it separate. I do 4 different charts where I can have different supports, different resistance, and my charts are never going to match up with yours. These are short-term moves. These are based on different trend lines. Some go back all the way to 2015, some go back to 2013, and some are starting in 2020, 2021, and 2022. This current one started in 2023 on January 10th. That's how I got this ascending triangle pattern. Right now you can see with XRP we're still struggling at 4065, but we are over the 40 cent mark. So my thing was, if we broke out of the ascending triangle, we had one touch here. If we can hold this downtrending resistance line instead of it being downtrending support now, instead of it being resistance when it was underneath with rejection, this could open the door for an ultimate push up to about 442 on its way to 45 cents and possibly more. But the only way that can happen is if we hold this ascending triangle breakout. That's why this is not a significant level if you look back on a macro perspective. This is purely micro, this level. This is a micro perspective, only going back to January 10th. So we're literally only 11 days back. It gives me my short-term pattern projection that I knew we had to break out in. A bigger, much larger pattern formation is at 442, and that is what I perceive, and not everybody's going to perceive it this way. I can see this as being some kind of a bull flag that it's trying to verify that it broke down. The way it moved down, some would say it might not be typically a bull flag. But we had a volatile move up, a parabolic at that. That looks like a flagpole. It did break down, and now we're trying to get verification of a breakdown instead of being able to continue on bullish thesis. Now, what I've told everybody from the start, and that goes back, and here's how you go from level. See, this goes to January 10th. This part of the pattern started on September 28, 2022. But the beginning of this support structure starts all the way back on June 18th, 2022. So just within this pattern, you've got going all the way to June, but I've got patterns within it. This downtrending resistance never changed. This was just an area where it lost its support and it forced its way back up to the uptrending support that it had already established all the way back here in June of 2022. Hit it again around here, September of 2022. hit it again here, November of 2022, hit it again in December, hit it again in January of 2023. So this is what we're talking about. And we never broke that uptrending support, which never allowed us to break the 2871, which allowed us to maintain on this current pattern formation. It's still in a very big bear flag. If you go back from the drop point, the drop of this bear flag started at 6562, and that was all the way back in May of 2022. So if you start building it back from more than just a micro, this is a very, very basic micro look of the market. I do this on purpose every single day so that you can get the best possible intel on whether to make a trade, how to make a trade, and so you're informed. I want you to be able to make an educated and informed decision if you're going to trade the market. I'm not going to tell you when to trade the market. Wash my hands of that when we broke sub 30 cents because I made such a bold guarantee that we would go sub 52 cents and ultimately end sub 30. And then we would end up, in my opinion, I think we can still make it sub 20 cents. I think that we have a lot of things going on in the current financial system. But like I said, that's a long shot. Even I don't know everything. But what I can tell you is once we broke sub 30 cents, I put it on you to make an educated and informed decision because I'm not going to tell you when to buy. I'll tell you what to do as far as the market movement. But at the end of the day, if I'm telling you when to buy and sell, you're never going to learn for yourself. And that's something I'm not willing to do. I'm trying to teach everybody. I don't have a blueprint here on YouTube. I'm doing things different than anybody else has ever done. I do it and maintain an audience strictly based on the charts, and then I'll add news. Most people who just do the charts, they don't have an audience. No fault of their own, but people don't want to watch the same damn thing over and over and over. Fortunately, I know how to talk, and I can keep things a little entertaining. So I'm trying to do this in the proper way. And honestly, I do things in a very bold way. I'm very straightforward. I tell the truth. I'm hard-headed because, you know, that's the way it has to be. And I'm bold. I don't give a shit what I say as long as I'm telling the truth. So if it rubs somebody the wrong way, I'm going to tell you the truth. And like even now, I'm having trouble talking. I had serious work done over here. You can see it swollen. I had a broken ventricle, and it's a break below the gum lines. I had a fracture from a dentist. He messed my mouth up a couple years ago on that side, so I had to get it fixed, and it was pretty painful. I haven't missed a day. I haven't missed a day of work in almost 23 months doing this. I started in end of March 2021. I have not missed a single day, not one. So I'm trying to do this in a way where we can all become one big group. Instead of individuals, a group. So right now the most important thing is this downtrending resistance. We're looking to hold this. Now the farther we go down, remember we talked about earlier, we could come all the way down here even. But right now in the current part of the formation is we're looking at the 397. And ultimately you could hold that 3996 or the 40 cents. But I like the pattern formation. And these aren't going to line up with your typical major resistance, major supports, because these are pattern formations. Your major resistance and support are what I just showed before. Those pattern formations, the major downtrending resistance right now is this bear flag that you can pull all the way back here, but the first hit of resistance to me was right here. So now you've got here, here, and now if we break back up here, your next major hit would be around 48 cents if we were to break all the way back up. Now what can stop you is what I'm showing that could be interpreted. Even though it's in a much bigger bear flag, it's a short term what I'm talking about bull flag here. It's a micro look at just a pattern move. Then it breaks down into a bear flag. So it invalidated the bull flag here. That's absolutely correct. And to continue validation of that, we can get a rejection here and then break back down. Or get an overextension into here and get rejected there as well. Now, we need to get this rejection to prove that this is a very bearish move. If it breaks out and above this, well, then your next levels are 52.48 if you break on top of this, 55.85, and then they get this pattern support resistance now at about 58 cents, 5764. That's all the way up there though. Even then, that's only finishing off this little part of the pattern. This overall pattern, even though we've shown the one from 2022, the overall, we can go much farther back. Let me get into... Just pull this down because it always pulls it. So this would come all the way back here. I just need an S. April of 2021. And that's not what we're looking at right now, but that's how far back it goes if you take it another step. And then if we go into my other charts, because I separate this, they all show something just a little bit different depending on the part of the pattern we're in, because I like to keep it separate. So I'm showing you the exact what's going to happen in this moment. Now, sure, if we break farther down and we go way back into the pattern from years and years and years ago, sure, we can find our way all the way down at 14 cents, but there's so much to do to get to that part of the pattern that goes back many, many years. So make sure that like button, turn that bell notification on so you can actually get my updates, and consider subscribing to the channel. Look in the video description below if you want to join me on Mexi or BitGet, and also if you want to join Tom's Army.